This is your news source evening bulletin for today, Friday, the 9th day of October in the year 2020. I'm Gordon Mosley. Here is what we're tracking tonight. After keeping her in custody for the past 3 days and not getting many of its questions answered, the Guyana Police Force today marched the Deputy Chief Election Officer, Roxana Myers, before the courts to face 2 charges of misconduct in public office. The charges are in relation to allegations of fraud at the 2020 elections. The prosecution's case is that as Deputy Chief Election Officer, Ms. Myers misconducted herself in public office together with the Region 4 Returning Officer and others at GCOM to declare a fraudulent account of votes for the 2nd of March elections. Myers was not required to plead to the indictable charges, but the prosecutor objected to bail. However, the presiding magistrate granted bail in the sum of $150,000 on each of the 2 charges. Myers was arrested on Tuesday as the police continued its investigations into the 2020 elections. During a questioning session at the CID headquarters, she was asked about her official role at the elections and about copies of the statements of poll. Throughout the questioning, Ms. Myers maintained her right to remain silent. It was after she repeatedly exercised that right, the police made a decision to arrest her for perverting the course of justice. The police later claimed that she was actually arrested for conspiracy to defraud. But the transcript of the police investigators' questioning of Myers and a copy of the station diary on her arrest proved that the issue of conspiracy to defraud was never put to her. The Deputy Chief Election Officer is being represented by attorney Nigel Hughes and Ronald Daniels. Mr. Daniels spoke to the media today.
Now, the prosecutor objected to bail quite naturally, as expected, and the prosecutor objected to bail based on the seriousness of the offense, which is a rather standard objection, saying that Ms. Myers was attempting, for want of a better expression, to undermine our country's democracy. The prosecutor, as one of the basis for objections, also indicated that the police have been making feverish attempts to contact Ms. Myers, both at her place of employ and at her home. We wrongly rejected that contention for the simple reason that we are not aware that the police has made any attempts to contact Ms. Myers. And when we learned that Ms. Myers was being sought by the police, is again from the press. And the police, in its press statement, which can be verified again, indicated that they were about to put out a bulletin for Ms. Myers when Ms. Myers showed up. And as Mr. Hughes had put on record, Ms. Myers voluntarily submitting herself to the custody of the police officers is an indication of someone who does not want to resist the jurisdiction of the police or resist the jurisdiction of the court, and is certainly not someone who poses any risk of flight or any risk of affecting the police's investigations.
The police launched a probe into the allegations of electoral fraud on the advice of the Director of Public Prosecutions. That advice followed private criminal charges that were filed against the GCOM Chief Elections Officer by representatives of the People's Progressive Party and the New Movement Party. A number of other GCOM staffers have faced the court in recent weeks to face charges of misconduct in public office and conspiracy. All of the charges relate to the same allegations of electoral fraud. More news coming up in a moment. Mobil Special and all other Mobil lubricants are distributed by Sol Guyana Inc. Mobil Special and all other Mobil lubricants are distributed by Sol Guyana Inc.
Design, photography, advertising, you name it, we do it. At Mass Global Media, we offer high-quality, versatile media and marketing solutions that will help your business reach its goals. Contact us now if you want a website developed, graphic design, social media marketing, animation, and much more by emailing info@massglobalmedia.com or call 658-5636. Mass Global Media. Vision, execution, results.
Been through it all.
But as a people we have
Weathered every storm.
And risen to every challenge.
Because it is the people of Guyana
that gives it its strength.
all the people.
Regardless of race,
Class or religion.
We
are one people, one strength.
And now is our time. A time to rise. Together, we rise.
Mobile Special and all other mobile lubricants are distributed by Sol Guyana Inc. Mobile Special and all other mobile lubricants are distributed by Sol Guyana Inc. Welcome back. Opposition leader Joe Harmon today accused the PP civic government and some elements in the Guyana police force of being part of a plot to dismantle the current makeup of the Guyana Elections Commission. At his weekly press conference, Mr. Harmon drew attention to the number of GCOM staffers who have been questioned and charged on allegations of electoral fraud. He said it is even more worrying that it appears as only staffers of one particular ethnic group are facing the police and the courts.
Since August 2nd, 2020, we have seen the Guyana Police Force detaining and breaching the constitutional rights of a number of Guyanese, and in particular, several employees of the Guyana Elections Commission, on the basis of trumped-up charges and baseless accusations and investigations. We have seen clear discriminatory practices in this regard, with Afro-Guyanese being targeted by the Guyana Police Force.
The opposition leader said in many instances the persons arrested would be held beyond the constitutional period for holding a suspect, and there have also been complaints of some of those persons being refused access to their attorneys. He said at least 2 current government ministers, however, were allowed access to the same GCOM officials, being questioned in an attempt to coerce them to answer certain questions.
What is even worse is that we have seen ministers of government injecting themselves and directing the police. At least 2 ministers, the Home Affairs Minister, Mr. Roxana, and Minister Charles Ramson Jr., have been reported of being in contact, intimidating, threatening, and coercing persons who have been detained. This is illegal. It is unconstitutional and calls into question the motive, the opportunity, and the means of the Guyana Police Force in what seems to be an attempt at dismantling an agency that is protected by the Constitution.
At least 5 GCOM officials, senior and junior ones, have faced the courts in the past 2 months on allegations of misconduct in public office and electoral fraud. 2 members of the main opposition APNU-AFC have also found themselves facing similar questions. The opposition leader today said the charges are all trumped up and there is no interest by the police in conducting a fair probe.
There are clear instances of political persecution and victimization of these staff members of the GCOM. It constitutes an attempt to dismantle the commission and render it ineffective from being able to hold credible elections. It is an assault on democracy and can cause irreparable damage to the fundamental basis of our electoral system. I wish to note that not one of the presiding officers and other GCOM officers responsible for missing poll books, ballot papers, and other polling documents have even been questioned, let alone detained by the police. This is not an investigation. It is a campaign of intimidation, bullyism, and psychological warfare being waged by the police under the direction of the People's Progressive Party regime.
And Mr. Harmon also accused the GCOM chairman, Justice Claudette Singh, of being complicit in all that is happening with officers under a commission that she is heading.
I am advised from an article appearing in the press from a commissioner of the Elections Commission that the crime chief, Mr. Blanham, had written to the chairman of the Elections Commission requesting certain documents from the commission, which documents are under the jurisdiction of the chief elections officer. And it appears that upon that communication, documents were released to the police. It is no wonder that the chairman of the Elections Commission has not raised her voice in concern for the welfare of these officers who worked under her. The only conclusion one can arrive at is that the chairman is complicit with respect to the dismantling of the GCOM by the PPP. Madam Chairman, you are leaving a tattered legacy, and you should do something before it gets worse.
In a statement today, the GCOM chair denied the allegations that she has been sharing documents relating to the workers with the police investigators. Justice Singh said requests were made by the police, but the only information shared was the job title of those who were questioned. Well, as the government moves ahead with the reopening of the country, it is pushing for all public servants to return to their jobs full-time, effectively ending a rotation and shift system that was put in place in wake of the coronavirus pandemic. In a memo seen by News Source, staff members of the local government ministry and all of its departments and the regional democratic councils have been told that they'll be resuming full-time work during the regular working hours. The workers have also been informed that the transportation system that was implemented to assist them to get to work safely will be discontinued, and they will all have to take their own transportation to work while observing health and safety guidelines. The move is coming at a time when the number of coronavirus cases and deaths have been rising steadily across the country, with total active cases over 1,000 and the death toll reaching 100 today. The opposition is not in support of the government's move and has described it as reckless. APNU AFC Member of Parliament, Coretta MacDonald.
I'm thinking that this rush to have workers return to work is just a mere act of spite. And I would go a little further to say that public servants have been classified as the main supporters for the APNU AFC. And as a means of getting back at them, you have decided, this government, this illegal government, they have decided to force workers to return to work without even considering the conditions that are necessary and that are supposed to be in place when we think about this COVID pandemic.
The APNU AFC Member of Parliament also said she cannot understand the sudden haste in forcing public servants to return to work full-time as the pandemic continues. Many of the workers have complained to the Guyana Public Service Union about the move. In the past 2 weeks, a number of government departments were forced to temporarily shut down their operations after persons working there were tested positive for COVID-19. While Guyana reached the grim milestone of more than 100 coronavirus deaths today as 4 persons lost their battle against the disease, taking the total number of deaths to 102 as of this afternoon. All 4 of the victims who died were men, with the youngest being 28 years old and the oldest being 57 years old. The 4 men who died are from regions 2, 3, 4, and 7. They all passed away while in a medical facility being treated for the virus. Details of their deaths were not released. The death toll from COVID-19 continues to climb. The first case and death were recorded in Guyana back in March. By the end of July, a total of 20 persons lost their lives to coronavirus. But the death rate started to surge from August, and between the beginning of August and today's date, a total of 82 additional deaths were recorded. September has so far been the deadliest month for the virus, with more than 45 deaths recorded in 30 days. Meanwhile, 29 new cases of the virus were recorded today. In an interview with the Department of Public Information, Health Minister Dr. Frank Anthony said the health authorities are paying close attention to the areas where the new cases are emerging.
We continue to monitor where these cases are coming from. We have been monitoring in all our regions. We have regional task force that have been established and have been working. And you would see where the hotspots were, that they're changing. So for example, 2 weeks ago we had a number of cases in Region 9 that has been reduced. Now we have probably less than 10 active cases in Region 9. So we are constantly monitoring, and we try to put additional measures in these areas to contain the epidemic.
The increase in new cases and deaths is coming at a time when the country has reduced the curfew hours and is preparing to reopen the international airports in a few days. The Guyana Fire Service was summoned to the Bond of Caricom Auto Parts store at Lusignan on the east coast of Demerara this afternoon as a fire swept through the building. Firemen were able to contain the blaze to the one bond, but by the time they did, millions of dollars in car parts were already destroyed. Employees bolted from the building as the fire quickly spread. It was reported that the fire was started by a customer who reportedly became angry after he was told that the store was out of stock of a car part that he wanted. According to the owner of the business, Imran Inshan, his workers told him that after the man was told the item was not available, he became angry and set fire to a gas-soaked piece of paper or cloth and threw it into the bond. The fire quickly spread. The businessman said he was a few buildings away and rushed across after seeing the fire. He intends to go through his security footage to see if the man could be identified.
I was actually at the other branch. I saw my staff running out, and they were trying to chase the individual that was that did it. According to the staff that was in the office at that time, someone came in and asked for parts, and they said they didn't have the parts. He had it in a paper, and the paper was slightly pink, she said, and he threw it in the office, and then he threw the match and lit it, and then it just burst into flame. Apparently, it seemed like it was gasoline, and the smoke, the staff ran out, and then it started to engulf the building.
The suspected arsonist was reportedly wearing a face mask at the time and rode away from the scene on a bicycle. Just days after the Guyana National Road Safety Council raised concern about the 51% increase in road fatalities for this year, 2 more persons have lost their lives on the country's roadways. An early morning smash-up at Chateau Margaux Public Road this morning claimed the lives of 52-year-old security guard Lionel Brower and 24-year-old mechanic Kevin Persada. According to a statement from the police, the security guard was riding his motorcycle along the public road when he was hit from behind by a speeding car that was being driven by the mechanic Kevin Persada. The impact of the crash pitched the security guard onto the roadway, while the car flipped several times, ending up in a nearby canal. The 2 men were picked up at the scene and taken to the hospital, but were both pronounced dead on arrival. Earlier this week, the Guyana Road Safety Council reported that more than 100 persons have lost their lives to road accidents for this year so far, representing a 51% increase over last year's figures. The council intends to roll out a campaign soon that will target speeding and drunk driving. A Barbadian national who was among a group of Guyanese and Barbadians busted on a cargo vessel at the city wharf with over 150 pounds of marijuana pleaded guilty today to drug trafficking and was sentenced to 4 years in jail as a guest of the state of Guyana and fined $51.5 million. 4 of the 6 men who were arrested earlier this week appeared in court this morning to face drug trafficking charges. Once in court, Barbadian national Michael Ford pleaded guilty to the charge, claiming all responsibility. With his guilty plea, the charges against the other 3 men were dropped and they were allowed to walk free. However, the Chief Magistrate Anne McLennan sentenced Ford to 4 years in jail and fined him $51.5 million for the drug trafficking. He was immediately ushered off the jail. The vessel arrived in Guyana a few weeks ago and was searched twice by agents of the Customs Anti-Narcotics Unit. It was during their last search earlier this week that a large packets of compressed marijuana were found stashed in the bottom of the boat that was preparing to ferry vegetables to Barbados. Across the region is coming up next. Mobile Delvac and all other mobile lubricants are distributed by Salt Guyana Inc. Mobile Delvac and all other mobile lubricants are distributed by Salt Guyana Inc.
We all know a strong educational foundation is a key to successful learning. Global Technology combines award-winning curriculum with innovative technology and teacher support to help students reach their potential. Our online platform creates an engaging learning experience. Using any device, you can be a part of amazing class discussions, collaborate with others, and have access to virtual learning software. With our multiple payment methods, you will never have to leave home. Find out how Global Technology can allow you to learn anything, anywhere, at any time.
Been through it all.
But as a people, we have
weathered every storm
and risen to every challenge.
Because it is the people of Guyana
that gives it its strength.
all the people,
Regardless of race,
class, or religion.
We
are one people, one strength.
And now is our time. A time to rise. Together, we rise.
Mobile Delvac and all other mobile lubricants are distributed by Salt Guyana Inc. Mobile Delvac and all other mobile lubricants are distributed by Salt Guyana Inc. Across the region right now, the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines will vote in general elections on the 5th of November. Prime Minister Ralph Gonsalves made the announcement last evening. It was also announced that nomination day will be on the 20th of October. The elections are expected to be a straight fight between Dr. Gonsalves' United Labour Party, which will be seeking its 5th consecutive term in office, and the New Democratic Party, being led into the elections for the first time by attorney Dr. Goodwin Friday. In the last elections in December 2015, the ULP won the NDP by 8 seats to 7, the same one-seat margin as the previous election in 2010. The cash-strapped regional airline LIAT, which is undergoing a restructuring program, is likely to return to the skies in November, a senior government minister in Antigua has said. But Information Minister Melford Nicholas told reporters that he would not want to give a specific date as to when the airline, in which the Barbados and St. Vincent and the Grenadines governments have agreed to sell their shares, will resume its operations. Apart from Antigua and Barbuda, the other major shareholder government of the Antigua-based airline is Dominica. Earlier this year, Antigua and Barbuda unveiled a new plan for the airline, with St. John's proposing reinvestment of 108 million Eastern Caribbean dollars and indicating that under the new plan, it is prepared to underwrite up to 50% of the required capitalization. The airline suspended its operations back in March after many Caribbean states shut down their airports as part of the measures to curb the spread of COVID-19. And finally tonight, the Spanish government has ordered a 15-day state of emergency to bring down COVID-19 infection rates in the capital after a court overturned a partial lockdown imposed a week ago. Madrid and nearby cities will see restrictions enforced by 7,000 police officers. The capital has been at the center of a political row, with the center-right city authorities challenging the government's demands. Cases are down and a state of emergency is unjustified, city officials said. Madrid's health minister insisted that measures already in place were working, and the national government order was a measure that no one will ever understand. Last Friday, all non-essential movement in and out of Madrid and the other 9 cities was banned, despite the opposition of local authorities led by the regional president. And that's your News Source Evening Bulletin for tonight and this week. I'm Gordon Mosley reporting. Have a safe weekend.